A day of justice in the horrific death of a Rochester man who was set on fire. The teenager responsible could now spend the rest of his life in prison.
There was no remorse for what he had done. He tried to cover up his actions, and now he's being held accountable finally.
The victim met a violent death at the hands of a killer who was just 14 years old at the time. Good afternoon, I'm Matt Malloy. Adriel Riley now awaits his punishment for the murder of Steven Amenhauser, who was lit on fire at his home 2 years ago. 13 WHAM's Chase Howell was at the Hall of Justice where that verdict came down today. Chase, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Matt. The judge found Adriel Riley guilty of second-degree murder, but not guilty of arson. Although family of 53-year-old Steven Amenhauser wasn't in the courtroom demanding justice for his death, it was served today. Adriel Riley stood before a judge Tuesday facing 2 counts of second-degree murder, arson in the 4th degree, and criminal possession of a weapon in the 2nd degree for lighting Steven Amenhauser on fire inside his Lyell Avenue apartment in March 2021, along with Zayvion, who pleaded guilty to manslaughter earlier this month.
This was intentional murder. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Rochester Family Court Judge Stacey Romeo agreed, finding Riley guilty of 1 count of second-degree murder for intentionally killing Amenhauser. Romeo also finding Riley guilty of criminal possession of a weapon in the 2nd degree, but he was found not guilty of an arson charge and a 2nd count of second-degree murder.
We're very happy with today's verdict. She found him guilty of intentional murder for intentionally setting the victim, Steven Amenhauser, on fire.
In this particular case, there was no jury hearing the trial. It's what's called a bench trial, when the judge makes the decision on whether someone is guilty of their charges or not.
I think jury and or bench trial, the act itself was so violent and horrendous that a jury or a bench trial, it wouldn't have mattered, in my opinion.
For Monroe County Assistant District Attorney Rachel Clark, she says judge or jury, she believes the verdict would be the same. Clark says Riley now faces up to 15 years to life.
Because he was 14 at the time he committed the intentional murder, the range under the New York law is only 6.5 up to 15 to life. So the judge will pick a number between 6.5 to 15, and then it will be to life. So the parole board will see him when they need to.
Riley will be sentenced on March 28th. And I want to note something else here, Matt. Before Amenhauser was murdered, he lost his wife and then his longtime girlfriend. Rochester police originally reporting he had no surviving family at the time of his death.
Also new at 5, new details on a suspected multi-million-dollar gambling ring and what we've learned about the alleged involvement of a former New York State trooper. Jackie DePere has been digging deeper into this case for us. Jackie, good evening.
That's right, Matt. Good evening. 13 WHAM News has confirmed former New York State Trooper Thomas Lukey is accused of sharing information about the gambling investigation with Louis P. Ferrari II, one of the men charged with operating an illegal gambling operation on Blossom Road. Former New York State Trooper Thomas Lukey is charged with obstruction. 13 WHAM News has learned through sources that 2 of the targets named in Lukey's federal criminal complaint are Louis P. Ferrari II and Anthony Amato. The pair is detailed in the complaint as Target 1 and Target 2, respectively. The criminal complaint against Lukey details that an unnamed state police trooper performed computer maintenance for a senior investigator in December 2020. According to the complaint, that trooper then saw a document with Louis Ferrari's name on it in plain view. From there, that unnamed trooper allegedly re-entered the office numerous times and placed multiple calls to Lukey. The criminal complaint against Lukey says Ferrari told investigators he was at his brother's pizza bar in Chili when Lukey asked him to go outside and talk. This is allegedly where Ferrari was informed he was being investigated for gambling. The separate criminal complaint against Ferrari claims Ferrari then called Anthony Amato and told Amato he, quote, must lay low and look legitimate. Other federal court documents allege that after being tipped off, the 2 men took steps to protect the gambling operation from the investigation. Thomas Lukey's attorney, Michael Sciano, tells me that Lukey is considering a plea agreement so he does not have to go to trial.
All right, Marty, thank you. 8:04. We are following breaking news this morning. An officer-involved shooting in Canandaigua. Sam Carter has been live at the scene for us all morning long, getting the latest information from police. Sam, what can you tell us?
Well, Dan, about an hour ago, Ontario County Sheriff's Office did release a statement about this scene here, which has closed one lane on Main Street here in Canandaigua all morning. They say that a reckless driver pursuit that started in East Bloomfield ended here, right at about Green Street and Main Street here in downtown Canandaigua, and that encounter led to an officer-involved shooting. Now, I want to be very careful about my words here and quote the press release exactly. Now, according to the Ontario County Sheriff's Office, quote, no officers or members of the public were injured during this incident. Again, no officers or members of the public were injured during this incident. We are expecting more information later today, but as you can see, the car that you actually pointed out earlier, Dan, is right there. It's been there all morning, and the door right there is propped open a little bit. A little while ago, police were kind of walking around that car. There are two police cars kind of in that back parking lot area of this building around that car. No official word on whether that is the car that was involved in this scene, but a kind of a wild scene. It's been here all morning. The command unit is available, and traffic here on Main Street, on one side of Main Street anyway, down to one lane. And it looks like right now sheriff's officers are directing a tow truck around, perhaps to maybe go get that car. We'll update you on that. That should start in the next couple of minutes if that is the case. But again, sheriffs have closed off Green Street here after an officer-involved shooting that, quote, that left no officers injured and, quote, no members of the public injured. No word on what that means. We are expecting to get more information at 1 today. It does, yes, look like that tow truck is going to get that car right there. When we get more information, we will pass it along, but still a very active scene here on Main Street in Canandaigua.